That bloke from the Smiths. They've all been suing each other lately over publishing royalties, poor blokes. One of the 80s definitive bands from Manchester, the J-Files are opened on the Smiths.
They don't believe me now, will they ever believe me? And if they don't believe me now, will they ever believe me? Oh,
The Smiths were one of the most important groups of the 80s. At a time when music was dominated by lightweight synthesizer acts, the Smiths stood out. They had a simple, old-fashioned lineup, an amazing guitarist in Johnny Marr, and one of the most unique singers around. Known simply by his surname, Morrissey was the face of the Smiths. With flowers dangling from his back pocket, he was a modern-day Oscar Wilde. He was a celibate, non-meat-eating, spotlight-seeking quote machine. The press had a field day with everything he said and did.
I get really tired of the old rock and roll image, the old, drunken, let's have fun persistently for 28 hours a day. I find this really boring, the whole rock and roll star trip. And I think by saying some of the things that I've said about the way that I live, it's really quite a different voice. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I don't smoke and that I have no interest whatsoever in drugs.
In their native England, the Smiths were superstars. Each of their albums went top 10, and today their influence is still strong.
There was one day Joe Moss gave me a video which was really important to us now, of a Lee Brinstoller interview. It was, as I said, we're a really big influence. And where one of them, I can't remember which, said he just got to the point where he knew who the other guy was and they hadn't met, and he thought, well, if we're ever going to get together, I'll just go over there and knock on his door and say, let's get together and write songs. We sounded very, very idealistic, but it caught my imagination, probably because I was, and I'm a very idealistic kind of guy, and so that's what I did.
In 1982, an 18-year-old Johnny Marr initiated the group's formation when he knocked on Morrissey's front door in Manchester.
Heaven knows, I just opened the door one day and there he was.
The two had never met, but Marr had already heard a lot about Morrissey. He took a punt that they would hit it off, and they did. They began writing songs almost immediately.
When in this charming car, this charming man, why pamper life's complexity when the leather runs smooth on the passenger seat? I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear.
With Marr's old schoolmate Andy Rourke on bass and Mike Joyce on drums, they chose a deliberately plain name for the group to set them apart from the exotic and outrageous names then going around. Their debut single was Hand in Glove. Although well received by the press, it was the follow-up release which got them on top of the pops and into households throughout Britain.
When we recorded this Charming Man, we had only had it for 2 weeks. We had just written the song, and we really felt this had to be released at once, and we all felt a particular energy about the song.
The Smiths' sound and image was bold and fresh. Early in 1984 came their debut album. Critics began hating the group for being so openly miserable, but young fans identified strongly with Morrissey's self-pity and self-deprecating humour.
In a live capacity, the audience seems to be predominantly male,
and it seems it can be a very celebratory event, almost violent, very wild, which I'm quite happy about, because I think people don't really have many opportunities in life to let themselves go slightly and express themselves and step out of themselves and so on and be a little insane.
Meet Is Murder went to #1 in the UK for the Smiths in 1985. But many say their real masterpiece came the following year with The Queen Is Dead.
I say, Charles, don't you ever crave to appear on the front of the Daily Mail, dressed in your mother's bridal veil?
The Smiths' career was all too brief. In 1987, amid financial chaos and a falling out between Morrissey and Marr, the band broke up just prior to the release of their album, Strange Ways, Here We Come.
Girlfriend in a coma, I know, it's really serious. There were times when I couldn't have murdered her, but you know I would hate anything to happen to her.
The Smiths never cracked America. They were a bit too British for the Yanks, but they did build up a sizable cult following, which Morrissey has since taken advantage of with his solo career.
And anybody who has any degree of because obviously the pop world, quite sadly, is one of little depths, shall we say.
After the Smiths, Johnny Marr went on to play with the Pretenders, The, and Electronic. For most of the last decade, he's had no contact whatsoever with Morrissey.
I think this is really more or less the end of the story. Ultimately, popular music will end. I mean, that must be obvious to almost anybody.
The Smiths had the energy and independence of punk, but also the great melodies and hooks of 60s pop. And because of Morrissey's striking vocal and Marr's finesse as a guitarist, they never sounded dated or derivative.
Take me out tonight, because I want to see people and I want to see life. Driving in your car, oh please don't drop me home, because it's not my home, it's their home and I'm welcome no more.